You're gonna tell us something about the Volta Delta.
Yeah.
And its work of
yeah, it's a
whole
work,
group, I think.
big
Yeah.
group. It's
Go
really
ahead.
thanks a lot. So it is really a starting research that we have really start let's say a couple of years ago, and it's the main research or the main goal provided by this Selasi Avornyo, who is a PhD student in Ghana University. As you know, people from Africa really has big problem, economic problem to move, and so he's not able to be here. So I will give the talk instead of him. It's a project that we are carrying out within a larger project. The title is Engulf, so land subsidence along Africa, Gulf of Guinea coast. It's a project funded by AFD, that it is the Agency for the Development of France. And it's, as you can see, there are several people working here. So we have people working in Europe, in USA, but also several university distributed in the Gulf of Guinea, so from Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal too. So the goal is to try to understanding what is ongoing in terms of land subsidence in this region, coastal region in Africa, where there are really very few informations. What we know is that generally land subsidence in coastal area is quite big, much larger generally than mean sea level. So if we really want to take and to make projection of what will happen in coastal areas, we have really to take into consideration not only sea level rise, but also land subsidence. And let's say here there are some very preliminary information that give us the idea that possible land subsidence could be a topic in the next future. So, and so humans are sinking coastal land much faster than sea level is rising. So we have really to take into account this. So why we are focusing there? Because if we look at those region, the red region are the region where we expect the biggest increase in populations over the next decades. So we have here still mega cities as Lagos, where there are 20 million people living there, and this only a very small percentage of people has the direct access to water. In Lagos, that are 20 million, only 10% of people has the possibility to direct open and access water. The other has to move outside their house, bring water from wells, distributed, let's say, illegal wells or not unknown wells distributed over the cities. So it could be really a big problem. So the study area is that one, and we know we published as LASI group in a couple of years ago a paper in Science where we report, and it's a main work developed by our Spanish members, and then we co-authored this. But what we discovered here, what we are much more interested is that in the Gulf of Guinea, we have this hatched area here. That means there is no information at all. So there we really do not know what is ongoing. And so this is the reason of this effort starting to make some lights on this region. Why it is important? Because if we try to make, to understand which is the elevation of these areas, we can see that there are several low-lying zones, and the majority of the people, the majority of the cities are located there in these areas. And so these maps has been obtained using satellite information, and we can see that there are several deltas. And in this study, so the studies by Selasi, is mainly focused in the Volta Delta here. because this is, of course, a student from Accra. Accra is the capital of Ghana. It's located more or less just to the west of the Volta Delta. So it's a delta that it is about 120 kilometers wide, so quite big. And okay, so if we look at some information, preliminary information, if we search in the internet, we can see that there are some very few paper published in the past where the people start understanding what is ongoing there. The majority of them are focused on sea level rise, so what happens in terms of acceleration of the sea level. There are very few paper, a couple of paper about subsidence there, but when we try to, let's say, to combine sea level rise, subsidence and coastal vulnerability, there are also very few information. There are some preliminary data, or in terms of land subsidence, developed by Chan et al. In a publication on 2019, where, let's say, try to make a first preliminary analysis where land subsidence is ongoing in Africa. And the EE say that Accra, so the capital, is a place where subsidence has been detected. And detected, it means that there are few millimeters per year, but the accuracy of this kind of preliminary application is quite low. Okay, so in terms of sea level rise, we know from there are quite several publications done mainly using satellite information, because there is no in situ based information there, or monitoring point. But the sea level rise there is in the round of 3 to 5 millimeters per year, so it is also an important point. And the effect on the coast, this is some picture taken from the coastal villages along the Volta Delta, so we can clearly see that the coastal zone is start to feel significant erosion and significant flooding. This is just one small movies of the typical event that happens. You can see that, yeah, it's very poor villages with very poor houses, and with a higher frequency this sort of events happens with the seawater that floods the villages located along the coast. And yeah, so the problem seems to be serious and become even more serious. So the aim of our goal is to try to assess, first of all, which is the elevation of this area, because there is no monitoring point or absolute measurement, only data obtained by satellite information, and we know that the accuracy of this kind of information is on the order of few meters, but a few meters really play an issue here. And so we also try to make some estimation of land subsidence using InSAR and using also some GNSS application. And then, of course, at the end, the idea is to make some prediction. So what the work that has been done by Selasi and Professor Addo, that it is also one of the members of our LASI groups, is so they make some GNSS survey in 2009-2021 using some portable antenna, and these are really the only, it seems impossible, but they are the only points that exist along this very long coast of in situ measurement of land subsidence. So the big problem also, we can apply InSAR, but then we do not have any reference point in order to calibrate. So this is a big issue. There are only these 6-7 points that has been taken along the coast here of the delta by the group of Professor Addo and these Selasi students. So then Okay, they also play with some very simple InSAR workflow. This is the main job of this PhD students during his thesis. So he worked with Sentinel, and he makes some preliminary map of lens subsidence using InSAR. And then what he did is a very simple application of this bathtub model. So it simply say, okay, we quantify which is the present rate of sea level rise, the present rate of lens subsidence. We have an estimation of the actual elevation of the land surface. We try to combine and make with using linear prediction. We know that this is, of course, very, very rough, extremely rough behavior or analysis, but just to make some open some lights and see something, let's say. So at the end, what we have, so we are able at least to calibrate a bit the InSAR measurement using these stations. So the GNSS station, there are 4 points where there are a significant number of persistent scatter in the surrounding of the GNSS benchmark. So we are able to find out a sort of calibration change that we have to apply to InSAR in order to, let's say, to make it, to move from relative to absolute measurement. And at the end, this is, let's say, the result that we have obtained. So on the left, we have a map that show which is, let's say, the lens subsidence over the average lens subsidence over the last 3 years using Sentinel data. And the average, we can see that, okay, orange means more or less 2 to 4 millimeter per year. And then we have red that we have up to 6 and pink up to 9 millimeter per year. So there are, on the average, we can see that all the deltas is sinking between 2 to 3 millimeter per year. There are some points or some region as in this part or as in this part where subsidence is much larger. And which are the causes of this? This is also a key point. It's not really, it's something that we have to work on. There is probably several causes that superpose. One is groundwater production, for sure, groundwater use from the citizens living in the delta. Another problem is related to the decrease of sediment transport from the river, because also in this case they built up some dikes on the inner part of the river, so no more sedimentation arrives. And this seems to be the main 2 causes of this data, but of this information of this subsidence rate. But the idea is to go a little bit more into the detail. And then with this, let's say, simple bathtub model, these are that show the area where that are in principle or in the future much more affected by possible flooding, so potential flooding, because they will become below the mean sea level. Okay, these are this region that are located around these 2 main lagoons that are located on the back barrier of the delta itself. Yeah, I've finished. So the conclusion is this. So we have tried to combine persistent scatter interferometry with these very few GNSS measurements that are available there. And we find that there are some subsidence ongoing there. So it's really important to enter a little bit more into the detail of what is ongoing. We have subsidence up to 8 millimeter per year. This very preliminary projection of sea level rise or relative sea level rise showed that in the future there will be some impact there. And so for sure, a more in-depth analysis is worth to be done. And within this engulf project, the idea is to start understanding, for example, which is the subsurface. There is no really hydrogeological information available in the literature. And so it's really important. Another very important point is to start building a sort of regional community of interest for all the university and the researcher and the technicians that live there along those coasts. And yeah, and we also have the idea to try to organize a first West Africa coastal regional workshop, a regional workshop on coastal land subsidence. And the idea is to have it there in next year, spring next year in Accra, the capital of Ghana. And this is the address of the main author of this work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pietro, and great that you could present the work of Selasi. Are there questions for this person? But Pietro will answer them, I guess. Yes.
Thank you for this very interesting presentation, and I really interested in this very early work in Africa. I want to know that you mentioned that the land subsidence rate about 2 or 3 millimeter to 9 millimeter per year. I just wonder, the main contribution is from what aspect?
Good question, but I really do not have an answer for this because, yeah, we don't know anything, right? We don't know anything. We suppose that there are two main contributions, at least in this Volta Delta. One is groundwater pumping. There is really no water supply. That they live really in also, let's say, the area is very poor, so people really rely by their possibility to drill wells and take out water with small pumps. So this could be one option. And the other option should be natural and subsidence due to the fact that the compaction of this young delta, because it's very young region formed, let's say, few hundreds of thousand years ago, is compacting, but natural subsidence is no more supported by new sedimentation because also in those rivers, the natural movement of sediment from the inner part to the delta has been reduced significantly through dam and something like that. So possibly these are the two main processes, but we don't know really.
Okay, Esther.
Thank you for this nice presentation of a very nice project. I was wondering about the InSAR maps. Of course, this is based on point scatterers. And I was wondering if there is a difference, for example, in foundation depths, and if you have houses and the roads will probably not have foundation. So if you see an effect of that, but maybe that's a bit too early now to say something about, but this could be interesting for future research.
Yeah, it's very early. What I can say is that this is really a very preliminary SAR application made by this student, learning by himself using some free software that you can download from the internet. So the accuracy is challenging. But within this project, we have also one of the that work within the project is Manu from Virginia Tech University. And he's doing, let's say, a much more robust analysis of InSAR for all the Guinea coast. So, and the result of this, he has already published recently something about Lagos. And in the next, I would say, in the next couple of months, we will have a more general picture of what it is really going on there, with a much more, let's say, reliable application of InSAR. And then, yes, as you can see, the villages are made by very, very poor poor houses. So I can say that this more or less corresponds really to the lowering of the land surface. But yeah, we have going there is not really easy, but we hope to have the possibility to go and work directly also in place there and check.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one more question. Michelle.
Do you have any idea yet what the depth to water is, or what the water level changes have been in these wells?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Let's say we have started having some lights, not in this delta, but in the Lagos, in the delta of Niger, and so in Lagos. There are some information, and there are really, so the poor people take water from 20, 30 meter deep wells, but at least in Lagos, there are also some industries, and they bring water much more deeper. So we don't know really, we don't know here exactly how it's going, but there is also the possibility that closed Accra is not very far from there, the capital, and there could be some industry that also drill deeper, so few hundreds meters is possible, but we have to check.
Okay, so still a lot of research to be done, I think. Thank you so much, Pietro.